Welcome, everybody. We are delighted you could join us for our webinar, A Dean's Role Through the Lens of Gender Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. My name is Greta Leibniz, and I am the co-PI and project director for the EDGE initiative. The EDGE initiative is the Engineering Dean's Gender Equity Initiative through the ASEE. Today's webinar is one in a series that we have produced, of which the most recent I just want to highlight. The first one is with Virginia Valiant, who is a leading researcher in gender equity, diversity, and inclusion. She recently published a book with her colleague Abigail Stewart on an inclusive academy, which I highly recommend. It is filled with evidence-based strategies and actions for leaders to take to create an inclusive culture. She also led a research project for the EDGE initiative in which we had 90 deans complete a survey telling us more about their knowledge and their actions in terms of gender equity, diversity, and inclusion. And what we found, a key takeaway that she presents in her webinar, is that deans are very well intentioned when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. However, they don't tend to be collecting the data necessary to be informed as to whether their actions are actually producing equitable, inclusive, diverse engagement. So with that in mind, one of the things that we sought to do is create a College of Engineering specific self-assessment tool that would help deans identify how well they're doing in terms of gender, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that self-assessment tool, which we call the EDGE College self-assessment tool, was created based upon the work of my colleagues, Dr. Kimberly Griffin and Dr. Alan Mabe, who are from the Association for Public Land Grant Universities. Their self-assessment tool is an institutional faculty diversity self-assessment tool. It incorporates many different strategies, both quantitative as well as qualitative, to help inform diversity efforts. We here at EDGE modified that tool to be specific to an engineering college as well as specific to gender equity, diversity, and inclusion. Just for your reference, APLU tool is also used by the AAAS Sea Change National Award System. This is a vehicle by which institutions, colleges, and departments who are engaged in efforts of diversity, equity, and inclusion can be recognized for those efforts. If you do engage the EDGE self-assessment tool, you'll be in prime condition to move towards that type of recognition. So those were our first two webinars prior to our current webinar, which, as you see, Dr. Qubbaj right here. Dean Qubbaj has been serving the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley for quite a while now. He was a full professor in mechanical engineering, moved to a position of senior associate vice president and vice provost for faculty affairs and diversity, and in that role served as PI for an advanced institutional transformation grant, and is currently a PI on and includes Advancing STEM Latinas in Academic Careers grant. Now, for a little less than 2 years, he's been serving as Dean of the Engineering and Computer Science College. Our primary goal for this webinar is to demonstrate that using the 4 frames model, which we'll present in just a minute, how an ethic of care, support, and inspiration can transform an engineering college culture to attract and sustain greater faculty, gender diversity, equity, and inclusion. So now, to get us started, Dean Qubbaj, please provide us with some background about the institution and college you serve.
Thank you, Gretel, for doing this. And I know I've worked with you for some time, and you've been instrumental in the diversity, equity, and inclusion. I've learned a lot from you. So thank you for hosting this. And I'm excited about the role of the Dean that I've been in less than 2 years. And I'm happy to share some of the successes, some of the lessons learned, and some of the initiatives that would help many of my colleagues and other people, not necessarily deans. As Gretel mentioned, we are at the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. You can look in the map. We are in the deep South Texas, close to the US-Mexico border. Recently, we received the Carnegie classification of a doctoral university with high research activity, and we are an R2 university. And this effort is really aligned with our diversity efforts, and they complement each other, and I'm gonna explain that. We have about 30,000 students. 30,000 students. We are the largest Hispanic serving institution in the state of Texas. Close to 90% of our students are Hispanics. We are proud to be the first among Texas institutions for awarding the most undergraduate 4-year degrees to Hispanics. We are also the first in Texas for awarding graduate degrees to Hispanic. Nationwide, we are the second for awarding degrees to Hispanic. So, and that reflects on our population and the demography of our area. We are also excited that every year we graduate over 5,000 students across the university, more than 5,000 degree awards at all levels, undergraduate, master's degree, and doctoral degrees. Now, let me, in my role, less than 2 years as a dean, let me tell you a little bit about my college, the College of Engineering and Computer Science. I have a little over 100 faculty members, and I'm excited to have 13% female representation. Actually, we have a total of 13 female faculty members in the college. When I came to the college less than 2 years ago, we had only 6. So I'm really proud of that we were able to double the number of women. Not only we are doubling the number of women, but I put the picture of those 4 women. We have amazing women. One of our women faculty, who's Dr. Karen Lozano, you could see her in the picture actually, from the second person to the right, from the right-hand side. She just came from the White House, and she was among 15 nationwide receiving the presidential awards for mentoring. So this is really exciting. The other person there is the first time in the new department chair. So we never had a female department chair in engineering. So we have it and the other 2 faculty. So these are amazing faculty who are making a difference. And I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish together in terms of increasing the representation of females. And of course, you could see the representation of Latinas in our faculty. Now, related to that, I'm also excited that we have over 3,500 students in the College of Engineering and Computer Science. And I tell everybody at UTRGV, we have 30,000 students. So 1 in each 8 students, if you walk in our campus and if you pick a student, there is a chance that 1 in each 8 student is a student in engineering or computer science. And this is exciting. We award about 500 degrees to our students. And I tell you what's exciting here is that many of those, you could see that pictures of those amazing females students, they are senior in civil engineering. Most of them, are first generation students. And I tell everybody, the reason I'm excited about my role, because we have 3,500 students in the Rio Grande Valley here. If we were not here, how many of those students will have the opportunity to become engineers? Very few of them are willing to leave their families and go somewhere else. So the difference we are making in the students is huge. And in my view, by bringing more female faculty, that's why you are seeing all these female students. We see some of our departments, and I could talk about this, we have on the students 18% female representation, but some of the departments like manufacturing engineering, 30% females. Can you imagine 30% females? And the reason we were able to do that, because 2 years ago, we didn't have a single female faculty in manufacturing engineering. Today, we have 2 female faculty in manufacturing engineering. So that makes a big difference, because those students who wants to be engineers and they want to do great things, they would like to see some female faculty. And since we are in a Hispanic serving institution, they want to see Latinas. And that's why you see the NSF include focusing on increasing the representation of Latinas in academics. So everything we do is connected together, and it's really exciting. As I mentioned, in the college, we have 7 undergraduate programs and 7 graduate programs. Our students are doing amazing things while they are at school, and they are inspired by our faculty, and our faculty are providing the mentoring and the support for them.
And it's very clear that you are serving a very diverse audience in a variety of ways. And just like other institutions, and particularly colleges of engineering, it takes consistent attention in order to recruit, retain, and advance a diverse professoriate. And I know that you've been engaged in that work for a very long time, Ala. As you mentioned, we've been involved in a lot of advanced work together. You've been active in all of it. And at one point, one of the few men that were actually involved in the advance efforts. So I applaud you for your early work. And as I've gotten to know you and your focus on gender, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it has occurred to me that your approach has been really consistent with a model developed by the Simmons University Center for Gender in Organizations and promoted by the Women in Engineering Proactive Network, WEPAN. That model is called the 4 Frames for Promoting Gender Equity Within Organizations. And I want to use that as a way of organizing our presentation today. So each of these frames are interconnected and critical for promoting gender equity within organizations. You can start at any one of those frames. We're going to start at this frame, which is called a revisioning organizational culture. We believe that you won't affect change without having a vision. So the second frame that we're going to focus on is, even if you have a vision about where you want to go, unless you have passionate leaders that are driving towards that vision, holding people accountable for manifesting that vision, you're not going to achieve that vision. The third frame, although necessary, it is not sufficient. It is necessary that you have key policies and procedures that promote and support diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the final frame that we'll include here is the fact that as you're working and striving towards a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive culture, you still need to have in place supports and resources for those underrepresented minorities that are currently in the system, if you seek for them to be recruited, retained, and advanced within your current system. So using the 4 frames as an organizational feature, what I wanted to do is discuss each frame and how you've engineered your work consistent with those frames. So let's start with the revisioning piece. How have you revisioned your college culture to be consistent with gender diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yes, thank you, Gretel. The model she presented is a really effective model. And it starts with revisioning the culture. And when I came to the college less than 2 years, this is the vision I had for the college: to be the most caring, engaged, and successful college of engineering and computer science, nationally recognized for its welcoming climate, engaging internal and external stakeholders, embracing diversity and excellence, as well as promoting sustainable development and better quality of life. And you could see the 3 words: caring, engaging, and successful. And in my view, this is the recipe for success. This is how we can impact diversity, equity, and inclusion. Caring, you care about the people. You support them, you care about them. Engaging them, and then help them be successful, provide them opportunities. So I think, and then once you provide them the opportunities and you care about them, you create the climate for them to be successful. So I think that vision, that's my roadmap for success, is the caring part. And the caring part has to do with the heart, of course, and the engaging part, engaging them, and also providing opportunities for success. And that aligns with the mission, which has, to prepare the next generation of passionate, innovative, and transformative leaders. And you could see here the focus on passionate and innovative. And I started with passionate because it's really important to focus on the heart. And sometimes I've noticed we engineers, we focus on the product. We focus on the product, what we do, but sometimes we didn't focus enough on the people who are benefiting from that product. And the same thing as universities. You think about it, we want to become, increase research activities. We want to increase the rankings of the university. But sometimes we forget about the people who are gonna make that happen. It's the people who are gonna move all these directions. Sometimes we miss to focus on the people, and in that process, we lose something really important. So that's why the focus on the passion, the heart, and the innovation, and also on leadership. We really need, you see there's a lot of public policies issues with engineering. We need leaders in engineering. So this way we can influence the decision-making and make a difference. And all this together, actually, when I came to the college, I want to have a slogan, and the slogan is successful together. And this slogan, in my view, fits really nicely with diversity, equity, inclusion. So the message, we are successful here, we need to work together to be successful. We will not be successful if our women faculty are not successful. We will not be successful if our underrepresented faculty are not successful, if our Latina students are not. So this culture of successful together is what's gonna move us forward and make us support each other and have the heart to help each other, whether it's faculty or students. Now, this actually lead me to the goals that I put for the college. And I started relating to the care I mentioned and the heart. The first goal was leadership and the climate. And basically, when every leader in the college, I gave them this book, which I recommend for everyone to read. It's by Simon Singh, It's Leaders Eat Last. And basically, it tells a very nice story about the Marines and why they have that great culture of focusing on the people and the role of the leaders in helping their people, in supporting their people, in providing them opportunities. So that's what leadership is about. And also, I put leadership first in the climate, because effective leaders and good leaders create a climate. And I love this book, which I give also to my Everybody Matters, the extraordinary power power of caring for your people like family. That makes a big difference. That makes a big difference when they feel good. And I was talking with Gretel, I was telling her, in my view, that's not only the right thing to do, that's the smart thing to do, because you make them more productive. This is the key for retaining, for recruiting, and for advancing faculty. And then, so leadership and climate is key, because this is the, the structure, and this is the baseline where you could build all the success. But also, we focus, of course, on student success, but also on opportunities, providing opportunities for students, for faculty, and also partnerships. And you see goal number 4 is partnership, which is basically, it has to do with successful together. Then I want to go to the important goal number 5, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so if you ask why the diversity, equity, and inclusion is number 5, and I tell you it's number 5 because for us to make a difference in diversity, equity, and inclusion, we need leadership, we need climate, we need to provide opportunities for our people, and we need to work together. These are the ingredients that will allow us to have enhanced equity, diversity, and inclusion. So if you had all these things, then equity, diversity, and inclusion will come naturally, and it's gonna advance because you have the ingredients, and you have the structure, and you have the support, and you have the climate for it to move. And goal number 6 basically is enhancing research, which is a little different than, because I see many colleges put research as goal number 1, because if you have the right leadership, if you provide the opportunities, if you have the partnership, and if you have the diversity, basically your research and your innovation and your productivity will go up. So I think the sequence of these goals, sometimes we start with goal number 6, going to goal number 1, but in my view, we need to start from 1, and then goal number 6 will be a natural result of that. Now, another thing which I like to mention related to why did I put diversity, inclusion, and equity before research is not that because research is less important. Many of you, I don't know if you've been working with the National Science Foundation, like 2 years ago, the National Science Foundation started the NSF 10 Big Ideas. The NSF 10 Big Ideas basically where the NSF is putting millions of dollars to invest in areas of research that gonna ensure that the US will stay at the lead of the world in terms of science and engineering. And if you read through them, there's 10 ideas. There is things about the quantum leap, about the data, about artificial intelligence, about the new Arctic. But one of them basically is NSF Include. And NSF Include is about broadening participation. And it was very interesting when we had, Greta mentioned, we have an NSF Include grant. So when we went to the meeting with Dr. Qubbaj, the National Science Foundation, we asked her which of these 10 big ideas is the most important to me. And sometimes it made me change in a different way. And her answer was, it's include. And then everybody was, how is it include is more important than even curing diseases, than finding the new discoveries, than doing amazing things? And the answer is simple. It says, if we need to do all these things, if we need to do all the research and cure all the diseases, we cannot do that if we don't leverage, the talents the talents we have in this country. Like in few years, we're gonna have the minorities in the US will be over than 50%. If you look at the schools now, women are over 50%. So how are we gonna be able to achieve all these great discoveries, all great innovations, if we are not using 50% of the population? So the key idea is that include and broadening the participation is key for us to achieve all the other goals.
Clearly, you are a passionate leader, which leads us right into our next question. How have you sought to model this passionate leader that supports that vision for diversity, equity, and inclusion that you've so articulated?
Right. And for me, it starts with the focus about the people, and it's about caring about the people. I like this quote, basically, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. This applies to our students. This applies to our faculty. And the focus on the why. And I love this book also. When I came to the college, I gave everyone in the college a copy of this book. Start with why. It talks about the why. It talks about the passion. It talks about the heart. And in my view, that drives many things. So in my view now, this is my guide. So when I hire faculty, when I hire chairs, I'm looking for some people who have the why. They have the passion. They want to make a difference. And that change, the whole thing. So the focus on the why and the focus on the people is what drives my approach to things. And I love this one because if you go to that, actually, that's how leaders inspire others, in my view. If you have the why, you can inspire others. And I love this quote basically, and I always tell my chairs that about when you are a leader, if your action inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader. By the way, I want to mention something I was mentioning to a colleague of mine. It taught me a lesson about leadership, and the lesson is that it says, you know, for you to lead, you have to love before you lead. So you have to love the people that you are leading before you lead them. So love first, then lead. So that's where the passion and the why and the heart comes into place. Now, talking about the inspiration, and what I found as being a dean, the power of inspiration is tremendous. You know, again, sometimes, you know, we like the data, but the power of inspiration is this. And what actually going to the NSF include when talking with the students, talking with faculty, what I realized, and this is something that the National Science Foundation, when it comes to minorities, when it comes whether it's students or faculty, all what they need to be successful, those people are smart people. Even those women who are not able to advance to be full professors, become chairs and deans, they are smart. Those students who could have become engineers and scientists and they drop out school, they are smart. All what they need access and inspiration. They need access, give them access to opportunities and inspiration, because some of them, they don't have the confidence. And that's why the power of inspiration. I like this inspirational story of this, one of our engineering graduate, Marcy Liscano. It's such an amazing story. She's one of our graduates, by the way. She's working at NASA. She received an award from the Women of Color, you know, group. She received the most, you know, active researcher at NASA. And she just received the most promising engineer from the great minds in STEM. And that, Marcy, what she told me, Marcy, when I was a little girl, nobody told me that I could be an engineer working at NASA, heading research, getting the most promising engineer. And she's a Latina and she's a woman. And for me, you know, the story of Marcy inspires me, but what's more exciting, it inspires many other students. When I have Marcy come talk with the kids in the high school, she inspired them that I was able to do it. I tell them, Marcy, she's like you. She's a first generation student. She was able to make it. And I tell them, I want to see many of you like Marcy, because you are smart and you are talented. And with the right mentoring and the right support, you could be like Marcy. And it's an amazing story. So what I did actually, when I came to the college, and this is again how I support diversity, equity, I started the Dean's Medals for significant achievement and impact. There was no question in my mind that Marcy deserved that recognition, because she's inspiring so many kids and so many women and so many Latinas. Now, this is the other inspiring story also, which has to do with inclusion and diversity. Mario, he used to be a roofer, by the way. His dream was to become an engineer. He migrated from Mexico. He lived with his aunt. He came to the school, then he dropped out. Then he was working a roofer. He fell from the roof. He was in the hospital and he got the disability, and you see him now walking with the wheelchair. And then he told me, he has 4 kids, and he told me, I have 2 choices. Either go under a bridge and beg for money, or come and make a difference. I want to inspire my kids and inspire others. And he came, and he was inspired by his family. He was inspired, and he's about to graduate. And I tell you, he will be the first graduate with such a disability in civil engineering. Now, what I told Mario, by doing this, you are inspiring so many people. And the exciting things, what I love about this story, and that tells you the power of inspiration. We received an email, and I mentioned that to Gretel, actually, when I talked with her last time, from somebody probably from Washington State. We don't know the person. And we put that picture, you see the picture with the civil engineering where he's, you know, part of the class. We put it on our website for civil engineering. And we received a very touching email from a child who has a disability. And that child, he said basically, I want to become an engineer. And I looked at all the schools I didn't see, and that picture gave me hope. So I told Mario, look, by doing this, you gave hope to a child. You inspired someone thousands of miles away who didn't even know you. So again, just putting that picture there, it inspired, because that person, he says, I wanted to be an engineer. I looked around, I didn't see, but seeing that picture, he says, gave me hope. So, and that's why I'm looking forward to see Mario graduate in the spring. Now, this is the last inspiring story I want to mention, and I'm really excited about this story. As Gretel mentioned, we are in the US-Mexico border, and many students don't have even the means to buy cars. So I have a student, his name is Grande Ramirez. I'm really proud of this student's Mario. Grande Ramirez, they have to cross the bridge from the Mexico to the US. For 2-3 years, he had been driving his bike from Matamoros to our campus. because he couldn't afford to buy a car. He couldn't afford even to get transportation. For 2 years, I told Brandon the same thing I told Mario. By doing this, you are inspiring so many kids who may think that, I cannot make it. You are inspiring so many kids who are, don't have the means, have issues, who are living across the borders, who are having difficulties. So, and what I like about this, when he got his degree, and you could see there, by the way, this is the picture of him graduating. You could see him with his parents. This is amazing. That's what inspires our faculty. That's what inspires us. And you see that it's more than just a bike. And what happened when he graduated, he gifted me that bike. And that's the best gift I ever received. And I'm putting that bike in the engineering building. I told him, I want everyone to see that bike and see, yes, they can do it, because Brandon was able to do it. And I told him the same thing. You are inspiring so many people that you don't know. So these success stories, so in my view, the power of inspiration, it has a trickling effect. You inspire somebody, they inspire thousands of people, and those are the examples of inspiration.
Wow, those just bring tears to my eyes. I can see why those types of examples inspire your faculty, help them understand that the role that they serve is critical, particularly when it comes to diverse students and creating equitable and inclusive environments where those individuals can be successful. So I will now next want to move to how you have developed and supported the use of inclusive policies and procedures in service of your work for gender diversity, equity, and inclusion.
And that actually, as Gretel mentioned, we started working on the advanced program here, and that was critical to lay the ground for many of the things we are doing now. So we had, if you see that picture, we received some supplemental funding from the National Science Foundation, and we had a dual career symposium. So we had over 100 individuals from various universities, administrators, faculty, and just talk about best practices, strategies for dual career hiring. Actually, out of that one, we were able to write a volume. If you see that on the left, actually advancing women in academic STEM fields through dual career policies and practices. And that's edited by my two colleagues, Mary Mora and Marcy McMahon, which we shared with everybody. And we use that to develop our policy. So we had our policy here, but I like what Gretel mentioned in the beginning. Policy is necessary, but not sufficient. And this I think that's what I like about my role now, because we had those policies. Being a dean, I'm able to make those policies work because I'm able to be proactive. I'm excited about the dual career hire you see there. Again, I tried to make that dual career hire happen before I came to the college. I couldn't do it. But when I came here, I was able to do it, because what I found about dual career hire, it requires you to be proactive. Many candidates, they come, they don't want to talk about their partners, about their spouses. And also sometimes if you wait for the process to go through, like when we do the searches, we require the certification of the pools by the Office of Diversity. But by the time you reach that state, you lost the candidate, it's too late. So being at the college, you get to see things early and you can interfere and you can be proactive. I was telling Gretel, it's like being on the ground, on the battle. You make changes. I mentioned to her, last year we had a strong candidate, and this is a very nice story, which Gretel, she liked, in computer science, which came here. And then when, again, the focus on the passion. So when I talk with the person, I try to find out what would make them comfortable here, how they see. I'm says, I have a spouse. And then I told him, bring the spouse, wait here. We flew here next day. Again, I could have not done that because by the time I reached that, probably they would have good enough. So we brought the spouse the next day. It's amazing researcher. And then when we brought the spouse, the faculty, by the way, and the computer science department could attest to that, they told me we like the spouse, the female spouse, we hired both of them. So again, it took us being proactive to do this one. And again, having the policies, like you mentioned, is really important. But in my view, because the time when it comes to faculty searches is critical, and having proactive leadership at the department and college level, and I've seen it myself being in the central administration at the college, makes all the difference. So if you have the policy along with proactive leadership and passionate leadership, I think you could make a huge difference when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion. And by the way, those dual career faculty are the most productive faculty I have in the college. They are doing amazing work in teaching, in research, in service. It's a climate, it feels like family, it's good for retention, it's good for advancement. They feel happy here. They are able to focus on their work, and they are more productive, and the university is benefiting from them. I'm not worrying, by the way, I worry about faculty retention. The dual career hire, of course, I worry about them, but I know we're going to retain them. So, and this is critical in engineering and computer science.
And I think you've also mentioned, Ala, that this has been a critical strategy specifically when it comes to hiring women, that over half of your women faculty have come with partners that you've been able to accommodate in your dual career hiring. Is that correct?
Of course, yeah. And actually, it's very interesting. As I mentioned, we have 13 faculty in the college, but actually the tenure track faculty is 9. And actually, I was this morning actually counting them, and I know them by person, and 5 out of those 9 are dual career hires. So over half of the tenure track faculty are dual career hires. So again, if we couldn't hire their spouses, we're gonna lose them, and those are doing amazing work. And as I mentioned, they are doing amazing work, but they are inspiring a lot of students. Because of having those faculty, we are able to get 30% females, like in manufacturing. We've never heard about it, like in manufacturing engineers, 1/3 of the students are females. Again, it has a trickling effect, and that's why I see all the time that diversity and inclusion on the faculty side, it's gonna reflect on the student side. It's gonna reflect on the student, and you're gonna see the results very soon.
So how have you provided support for your underrepresented minority faculty?
Yes, I love this picture. This picture is when we celebrated the presidential award for Dr. Karen Lozano. She came, and I had a meeting with her and all the women faculty in the college. And she came from the White House. I told her, what can we do to make sure we get more Karens here? How we can support you to get more? So in my view, the way that I support women and faculty is what you mentioned in the beginning, through an ethic of support, an ethic of care, and an ethic of inspiration. And going back to my vision, as I mentioned, caring, engaged, and successful. In my view, when it comes to women, when it comes to minorities, and even when it comes to human beings also, if you care about them, if you support them, if you engage them, because many of those women have been isolated. If you engage them and if you provide them opportunities, they're gonna rise to the level, and they're gonna make amazing work, and they're gonna make you more productive in research. They're gonna help you get the rankings, and they're gonna help you get more students, because those are mentoring a lot of students. As you know, most of our students are females. The female students and Latinas, they like to see Latinas role models. So they are but again, it all starts with a caring, supportive structure, and inspiring. Again, I see the role of the deans and the chair. You inspire those women, but they're gonna come and you inspire, like Karen Lozano, she came and started. Now she's a full professor with her, she's inspiring so many junior faculty. And she and all the junior faculty, they are inspiring hundreds and thousands of students. So you never underestimate the impact of all this. And it's just like a trickling effect, and you could feel it and you could see it. So I think that, as I mentioned, it's not about money. Of course, they need the support, but that support structure, that caring structure, and that inspiration, in my view, is critical.
I love it, Ala. And now is opportunity for our audience and our participants here in our webinar to ask you questions about the strategies and the approach that you've taken. So I know one question that I've got is, what other policies and practices that you've utilized that had impact in helping you diversify your professoriate?
Right. Another policy which we started at the university, part of the new processes, to enhance diversity. But again, that one which really worked, but also that requires some proactive things. So what we've been doing, basically, when the search committees, because we have limited funding to bring candidates. So we asked them to bring 2 or 3 candidates, but when I give the list, I found out that those 2 or 3 are females. I look into the number 4 and 5, I find them, minorities, females, underrepresented. So what I tell them, okay, why don't you bring 3 and 4? And I tell them, basically, you're gonna make the decision. You just bring them. And I have several cases, by the way, when they bring number 3 and 4, the committee comes back and says, we like number 4. We like number 3. And we ended up that number 3 or 4 underrepresented minority or big. So I think this is a strategy, because it's more, you are offering, says, you are fine, the top candidates you want to bring, but I like you to consider bringing 2. I'm providing the funding, you make the decision. And then after, I don't tell them what to hire. They say, we like the person, they are engaging. And again, probably this goes back to some, implicit bias. Maybe, as we know, maybe women are not good, bragging about their achievements like men, but expanding the number of interviews to campus, I think makes a huge difference. And I ended up with cases where the search committee, they say, we like number 4. We don't like the 2 we recommended. And because once they see the person, they start, seeing, other things and other important. So this is another strategy that really worked for us here. And being a dean, again, it makes you, as we talked before, when you are doing these things from outside the college, you have to wait for the search committee to give you the recommendation. So by the time it goes through the chair and the dean and that office, even if you're going to bring some additional candidates, they've already, it's a hiring period. So this one is going to be effective if it's done proactively and somebody on the ground, whether it's the dean or the chair, do it, then it's going to make a difference.
Scott Baker has a really good question for you, Ala, and it's about, have you any experience with dual career hiring between engineering and other schools within the university? Because that can be a challenge. You can, as a dean, you can orchestrate within your own college, but how do you partner with other colleges to support dual career?
This is the tricky part, actually, and to be honest with you, I've been successful because I have an advantage because before that I was a vice provost. So I work with all the deans and I because each college have their own lines. So I developed that relationships with the other deans where basically I told them, if you have a good candidate, I'm willing to help you. So it's mutual. So we accommodate each other. Now I'm working on a dual career hiring with another college in fine arts. Basically, I'm talking with the other dean. And so I try to work with the other deans on this, but I know it's a little challenging, and sometimes the central administration office help with that. But in my view, I think talking with the other deans, sometimes I make the two chairs work together. And sometimes one other strategy I use basically, because some of those, and this is another thing what I found is helpful, some of those faculty, they want tenure track position, let's say, and we hire the faculty, and then basically I tell, okay, why not you start as like a visiting? Okay, this is really great. So the other colleges, they are willing to make the investment. Say, okay, a visiting professor 1 year. And by the way, when they have the person 1 year, once a line open, they end up liking the position. It just really, so I tell them, why not we find a way to get you in? Visiting assistant professor is good. And so some of these strategies, because going to college, I tell them, give a tenure track line. Some, if they don't have the line, but it's easier for them to be willing to give a 1 year line. I tell them, let's have 1 year. And most of the time it did work because once they see the faculty, it gives them more opportunity. So these are some of the strategies we did, and it did work.
And we also have some great research that has come out of Washington State University and an advanced grant there that looked at dual career hiring and found that sometimes there's been reticence to hire this trailing spouse. And what we find is that invariably the quality of the spouses are almost a blue light special, if you will, two for the price of one. High quality faculty, and a key aspect of what we're doing is retaining faculty. We know that dual careers are, if hired, are much more likely to be retained. So dual career hiring is a valuable strategy for hiring high quality individuals who are likely to stay at the institution. So that's another really important part for leveraging this dual career piece for the advantage of everybody, not just those in engineering, but across the board. So very good point. I know as we've talked, Ala, we've talked about passionate leadership because that is a key part of your stamp on this whole process. How have you been able to engage chairs that carry that same passion and support the vision that you have for diversity and inclusion, particularly when it comes to gender?
Right, and I agree with you. The chairs are very critical in this process. And for me, when I came, in as a dean, I've engaged in this process. I worked closely with the chairs. And one of the things, I've done before in my role as a vice provost, I used to do the exit interviews with faculty. And most of the times when faculty leave, it's because of a climate in their department. So I think the departmental climate is really critical. But in my view, what I've noticed, when you are in the college, you could easily influence the departmental climate because you are closer to the field. And I try to basically, as you see my role about, start with why, I try to hire the right chairs. And sometimes in academia, and I was talking with you last time about this, sometimes we think is the best researcher is the best chair. And again, I think there is a role for a best researcher, but when I hire a chair, I want somebody who has the leadership. I tell people, when you are a chair, and you know this, sometimes in academia, we are trained to be selfish, to be honest with you. Because the way you get, which is true, by the way. We are academics, we have to admit it. You are promoted for what you publish. You get more credit if you are a first order. You get more credit if you are a PI. So I tell them, when you become a chair, it's a share. It's not about you. It's about helping the other. It's about, giving a hand. It's about inspiring. So I try to get chair who are willing to look for the others, because when you are a chair, it's not about you. It's about, and I tell people, the success of the chair is measured by the success of their department. Is not measured by their success. And that has to do, I changed the way I evaluate chairs. Because before we used to evaluate chairs, how many grants you got, how many BIs and things. Why not we evaluate chair, how many faculty you mentored, how many women you supported, how many, so changing that culture, it makes a difference. But again, in my view, the chair is critical, and we need, and for most of the times we are looking for the best researcher, the one with the high, which is good if you find somebody, but in my view, leadership is key. And I try to make sure this is reflected in their evaluation and because the original system, to be honest with you, we know it's not, it doesn't support this type of leadership. But I think it's a change in culture. So we are changing the culture, but things, I've been excited about it, and the chairs we have are very supported. And again, when they see the results, when they see those dual career hiring are making a difference. In the beginning, some of them are reluctant. Are you sure? But when they see the results, they get excited. And they start to realize this is good for their department. This is good for their faculty. Because they know, like you mentioned, the dual career hiring. In engineering, when we lose a faculty, it's a lot of cost. We give them startup funding. We build their labs. It's significant amount of cost to the college, to the department, to the university. So if we are able to retain them, if those faculty are happy, that will be better for the department, and that will be better for the climate, and it will be better for the students. So again, the chairs are seeing the difference, and they are buying into this slowly, and they are, getting into the new climate, that we have at the college.
How do you deal with resistance?
Right. We always have resistance, but in my view, like I mentioned, people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. People are humans, so when you talk with them, when you engage them, what I found, even if they disagree with you, they still respect you. So because they know you are trying to do the things, and engineers, what I've noticed, I like what you are doing about the assessment and the data. So when you show them the data, they're gonna be, because initially show me the data, show me it, because that's the way we are trained. Show me the graphs. So even when I tell them about that, nobody thought of them that NSF Include is more, in the National Science Foundation, it has, when we ask them, it's more important than other areas, because you need, they don't see that way. So once they start seeing things, and I tell everyone, in my view, there is a book, which is the Strength Finder, also I share with and the Strength Finder is basically everyone has their strength, everyone has, and it's about aligning. By the way, I had to reassign some chairs, but they were happy. By the way, I had a department chair, and the person hugged me and told me, it was not for me. I didn't enjoy it, you see. But if they know that you are trying, and now they are doing amazing work, because that person could make a great researcher, a great director of a center. So, and that person was not enjoying it. So when they know you are trying to help, again, it's the passion, because in my view, the passion works with everyone. The people we think they are good, and the people, because if they know you care about them and you want to do good for them, many of them come and thank me. They told me, by the way, that was the best decision. Thank you. I know I wanted to be the chair, but I realized it's not for me. And even somebody told me, I didn't enjoy it. I was doing something. So I think people start, again, it's about when you treat people with passion, and when you care about them, I think they're gonna see things in a different way. And we are seeing that. Of course, you're always gonna get some resistance, but the way they're gonna react to the resistance is gonna be different. And the way I tell my students and my faculty things, I tell them, sometimes your professors give you an F, but you still respect them. I tell them, I don't know, sometimes when I was a kid, my parents spanked me, but you know what I mean? So if they know you are trying to do the best for the college and the university and the students, they're gonna respect you and they're gonna follow you. That's what I believe. Because at the end of the day, everybody's trying to do good things. It's about their thinking, and sometimes it takes time to take culture, to change culture, and to change minds and change hearts. So, but I think I'm excited about the work we've been doing here, and all it started with the advanced work and working with you and learning about all these things. But now with the role of the dean, I'm able to take all these experiences that I've learned through the advanced and the MNIT work and all these activities and put it to practice. So it's not only policies. And those things allow me to make change. So I need those when it comes with the leadership and when you are on the ground, you could make the changes. And that's what excites me. So everything, it complements each other. You need both.
And another question that we've got here that is a quick question is, how diverse is your leadership team?
Oh, this is, by the way, as I mentioned, I'm really excited. In the College of Engineering, by the way, we never had a female department chair. I am excited. We have, for the first time in our history as a college, and we started here in 1993. So over 25 years, the first time we have a female department chair. And again, the first time we have a female associate chair, because as I mentioned, sometimes in academia, we need to think about training the next generation of leaders. We don't. So I have a chair, and I think those chairs will be prepared. And I tell everybody, I need somebody, because I plan to be here, I love the job, but we need somebody to be prepared to take the next jobs. I want to see some of them as deans and making a difference. So I'm excited that I have a chair who could make a dean in the future, and I have an associate chair who could make a chair in the future. So I think on the leadership team now, I have a chair and I have an associate chair, and both of them are on my leadership team. So I have 2 females, but if you think about it, when I came, there is 6 female faculty. Now we have 12. I think there is good, because many of the others, like we have 9 tenure track females. We used to have 4 or 5, 5 of them tenure track faculty. So when you have tenure track faculty, you need to protect them. So I think given the composition of our faculty and that we are a young college, I'm happy with the representation of females. And I think we're going to get more, I think you're going to see more females in leadership positions.
That sounds fabulous. And another question from Marcy is, how are you addressing workloads as related to inequitable service or mentoring that women faculty tend to do more of?
Right. And Marcy, good to see you. Marcy has been critical, even though she's not in the College of Engineering, but I gave her the title of an honorary engineer, because she's like, she's done amazing work. That goes back to the role of chairs and deans. I try to, because mentoring, advising, service responsibilities, and I work that into their workload. I try to build that into their workload. And that's, sometimes our policies give the flexibility, but having there on the ground, you try to find ways to support them. And I do my best to support them, and the chairs cooperate with that, because they see the results, because, the way they mentor. So I'm giving them, I give them credit for doing all these activities, because again, the workload is set at the department and college level. So being on the ground, and especially working with the chairs, I think we are able, of course, they are doing, I have to admit, they are doing more work probably than many people. It's fine. But they know that the main thing, they know we appreciate them, number 1. Number 2, they know that we try to accommodate them. But some of them, sometimes they might say, I want to teach an additional class because the students need it. But I do my best, and the chairs are doing their best to give them credit in terms of workload. And the same thing, we try, like the tenure track faculty, I don't want them to be serving as program coordinators. So we try to protect them a little bit from service, but it's a double-edged story, because you need them to mentor. So there is a balance. So we are careful how to use them, but they want to do more, by the way, and they love it. They enjoy it, and they are able to inspire other faculties. So I think it's working, but I agree with Marcy. It's a little challenging, but we are able to make it work.
And we are closing the end of our time together, and I want to just read one lovely statement that we got from Dr. Obadiah. Obadiah. Yeah, he said he doesn't mind me reading this out loud. He said he joined UTRGV in 2018, and he can attest that one of the things that make me think this place is a permanent home is the fact that as a person I feel valued, and the dean is a big part of that. Yes, we have to produce research and do good teaching and service, and the dean's effort in knowing each of us individually, bringing humanity and passion to the workplace, make me want to perform even better, and at the same time inspires my students, not just in being good engineers, but also being good human beings. So just wanted to share that.
I don't know if I deserve it, but I really appreciate it. And again, but I know Dr. Ubaidullah and everybody is helping, and I'm really excited. This is the best job I've ever had, because you could make a difference on the ground, and you see the difference you make. So every day I woke up in the morning excited to come here, and thank you for the feedback, Dr. Ubaidullah.
Oh, fabulous. Now, as we're winding down our webinar here, I just wanted to let people know about some next steps that they can take. Clearly, we're seeking people to sign our ASEE Engineering Dean's Diversity Pledge. If you haven't signed that pledge, please do so. Here's a vehicle for doing it. Please join our listserv to be aware of future webinars that we will be hosting, of which we will be having a webinar with Dean Scott Ashford from Oregon State University next month, and he'll be talking specifically about disrupting process, namely hiring processes, in order to dismantle old culture and bring about new culture. So we've got the registration link there, which can also be found on our website. Be prepared for another webinar showcasing an exceptional dean. Please review our webinars that we've already recorded, and we have a number of tools that are useful. Here's another thing that you can be engaged in. We're developing a dean's pilot program to apply our self-assessment tool and get a sense of how helpful that tool is for deans and how we can shape it even more tightly to be supportive of their work. So please let me know if you're interested in being a part of this pilot program. We also have a new app that is very interesting for gathering the numbers that we're seeking about diversity. So check out this new app. So at this point, I want to launch one quick poll that I'd love to get feedback from everybody on. I know we're at the end of our hour, but we've got a couple more minutes, and I'd love to get your input. What we're seeking to do is get a sense of what do you see yourself doing now as a function of having listened to our webinar today. We've got a number of strategies that we're suggesting. Share the information with your colleagues. You can certainly share a link of this recording with others who you might be interested in just showcasing some ideas or discussing ideas with. You can review the EDGE website for useful resources. And you can also reflect on how you can change your organization, your culture, using the 4 frames that we've showcased here. It's a useful strategy for thinking about ways in which you can affect organizational change. In fact, you might do all of them, or you might do none of these things. And in fact, you may already be doing great work. So you might be doing nothing different at all as a function of the webinar, but we want to get a sense of what you might be thinking about doing. And if your strategy is not reflected here as to what you would think about doing as a function of listening to Dr. Qubbaj, then chat in an example of something that you are inspired to do. What I'm seeing is that most people are interested in sharing this information with colleagues, which is great. Some are interested in checking out the website, which we highly encourage. If nothing else, simply to go back and look at the other webinars that we have recorded, particularly on evidence-based practices that you can utilize as evidenced by the work that Dr. Valiant is engaged in, or take a look at the self-assessment tool. We are at the top of our hour. What I'm going to do is go ahead and close the poll. If there are other things that you are interested in doing, we'd love to hear about what those things are. And in the meantime, just want to invite people to share their feedback in a more formal survey. Here's our SurveyMonkey link and give us some feedback, because ultimately NSF is always interested in hearing what you're learning from the work that we're doing. One more bid for the College Self-Assessment Tool pilot study. If you're interested, please talk to me now at the top of our hour. Thank you. Thank you, Ella, for your great work. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for our webinar today. Delightful to see everybody. Have a wonderful day. Thank you all.